Hi, I'm Varoon Raghavan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Princeton Digital Group. We are a multi-country, Asia-focused data center operator that's currently in 5 countries. That's in China, India, Indonesia, Singapore, and Japan. And we deliver data center services to hyperscaler customers across all of these 5 countries. We are backed by Warburg Pincus, the large US private equity firm, and Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, the Canada's premier pension plan administrator. We're currently, in 5 countries, but looking to grow beyond these 5 countries as well as go deeper in them, and have grown over the last few years through a combination of acquisitions, carve-outs from telcos, as well as greenfield development. Data centers are the foundational blocks of the internet. So everything you do on the internet, whether that's ordering for coffee or trying to get your pet to go for a walk or doing applications on the internet, etc., everything runs on the internet, and the internet has to run on the data centers. So data centers are driven by the fact that the large platforms that drive all of our internet needs have to be ubiquitous. So you need to be able to access them, whether you're in Jakarta, whether you're in California, whether you are in Mumbai, and therefore you need data centers which can support that ubiquity, that scalability. And this is the reason why you're seeing so much demand for data centers. It's driven by the fact that as the internet grows, you need that foundational infrastructure to be everywhere. Sure. So we look at data centers from 3 different dimensions. One is we look at the data centers from the standpoint of scalability. The second is we look at data centers from a risk perspective. And the third is that we look at data centers from an economics standpoint. Now, when I talk about scalability, the reason scalability is so important is that more and more when a service provider or a customer comes into a data center, they're looking for the ability to grow at the same site. So which is why scalability becomes extremely important. Risk parameters obviously are things like flood risk analysis, security threats, looking at whether it can be connected, etc., or not. Those are things that drive how you think about solving problems for the site, or if there are any challenges which could potentially add risks when you're operating the site. And the third and the final, which I'm sure a lot of the IRI readers would be interested in, is the fact that economics matter. In the end, you look at what is the maximum EBITDA that a data center can generate at full utilization, and look at what the economics would be for the capex that you'd be spending for that, as well as the ongoing cost. And that combination helps you assess data centers. There are many different ways of looking at data centers, but I want to talk about 2 specific dimensions, which I think drive a lot of the thinking around the industry and how segments have been formed. One is the concept of interconnectedness. So certain data centers are more interconnected than others. And the other is the concept of scale, which, by the way, I'll keep coming back to several times in this discussion. Scale obviously is something that matters because some data centers are obviously larger than others. In general, the highly interconnected data centers, which are in city centers, tend to be relatively smaller, but more connected, while the highly scalable core data centers, which may not necessarily be in city centers and usually are not, tend to be much larger in scale, but not as interconnected in the others. The types of customers as well as the use cases that you will see in both of these sides of data centers, so the core highly scalable data centers and the edge interconnected data centers, can be different. So the use case of why customers come into core data centers is because they're putting their infrastructure there, which is going to run applications. And the use case for why they're going to the interconnected data centers is because they want to connect to eyeballs, to users, to networks. So that drives economics of those data centers, drives the ecosystem you're trying to develop, drives the capabilities that you need to do to operate those data centers. and obviously also drives customers. You may end up having the same set of customers potentially on both data centers, but what they're using it for is very different. So there is a lot of capital chasing data centers, as we all know. There is interest from real estate funds, there's interest from infrastructure funds, private equity funds, sovereign wealth capital, strategic companies that want to invest in the data center industry, etc. So as all of these investors are looking at the industry, I'd say there are a few watchouts or a few things to consider. One is we at PDG believe that building a multi-country scalable business is extremely critical. So when an investor is looking at entering this asset class, they should think about, is there the opportunity to scale, and is there an opportunity to be multi-country? Because although you can have highly viable single site, single country businesses, over a period of time, the strategic value is going to come to those folks who can build multi-country businesses at scale, like we have in 5 countries in the 4 years that we've been in existence. The second thing I would say is that execution matters. It would be a folly to look at these as real estate sort of assets. Obviously the real assets, they're buildings, there's mechanical, electrical equipment. But at the end of the day, the operational excellence that puts all of this together to underwrite SLAs, service level agreements for customers, is really why this business exists. So this business exists to serve customers and to serve customers' requirements of equipment to ensure that their equipment is in a secure, controlled environment. So being able to provide the secure, controlled environment is a high bar to clear, particularly doing that consistently 24/7 for all the customers in all kinds of situations, through the pandemic, through natural disasters, through demonstrations, what have you. So that operational excellence and resiliency is really very critical. So I would strongly counsel investors to look at, how do you rate your platforms or the investments on that operational excellence? Have they delivered that? Can they do that consistently into the future? And the third thing I would say is that what matters a lot is obviously deep relationships with customers. There are a handful of so-called hyperscalers, which are the large US and Chinese technology companies that are the big drivers of demand in the data center space. And providers such as PDG who have a strong relationship with these customers are really going to be the ones that win out in the end. So that's going to be the third thing that I'd say investors should look at and watch out for. This would obviously be on top of all the usual hygiene factors such as governance, ensuring that you have a strong culture as an organization, ensuring that you have the right kind of approach to building teams, building businesses, etc. But these are the three that I would say are specific watchouts for investors. So in Asia, I'd say that there are a couple of unique opportunities as well as challenges, and as always, they go go along together. So one challenge, which is also an opportunity that I'd like to talk about, is sustainability. So there's obviously a great drive from investors, customers, employees, and companies to be to build more sustainable data centers, which essentially means having more green power, more renewable power, as well as running data centers more efficiently. Now, this is where Asia can present a unique challenge because every country has a different set of rules and regulations around how power is procured and how green power is procured and delivered. The economics are different in each country. The scalability is different, and efficiency is also different because you're in different climate. You're in North Asia where it gets cold. You're in Singapore where the weather never changes. So, how do you then run highly efficient data centers in this environment? It becomes the other challenge. So I'd say that sustainability is a great opportunity as well as challenge, not unique to Asia, but pretty distinctive in Asia. Second, I would say is that again, Asia's as an aggregate market, Asia is going to be next year larger than North America. But in terms of in-market heterogeneity, how different each of the markets are, obviously the markets within Asia are highly different than the markets within North America. So you obviously have very, very different drivers in terms of regulations, connectivity, ecosystem in a Japan versus a China versus an India. So anybody who wants to be a substantial player in Asia will need to be able to work through all of these challenges and build a business that is resilient to these challenges and sort of grows through them. So I'd say those two are probably the key opportunities and challenges for Asia. Sort of in summary, I would say that one of the big facts about Asia is that as a market, we are seeing unprecedented growth. It's a market that as I was saying earlier, will overtake North America as the largest data center market next year. And the sky's the limit because there are several countries in Asia which have not even seen the first wave of data center growth, and many others which are now seeing that inflection point at which you see that sort of supernova growth. So there's great opportunity in Asia. Investors who are looking at Asia don't need me to tell them this, and investors who are not are certainly missing out. And there's a great opportunity in Asia for data centers as well.